I'd like to take you to the next level. And that is alphabetical orders. How many of you have ever been to a Yom Kippur service or a Rosh Hashanah service? Okay? How many of you have ever looked at the Hebrew poems that we read in the synagogue? Do you ever notice that there's a pattern? There's a pattern in a lot of those Hebrew poems. The same pattern comes up in the book of Eicha, Lamentations. What pattern is there in a lot of them? The Aleph Bet, very good. The Aleph Bet, the order of the verses in that poetry is in the order of the Aleph Bet. And what I want to try to demonstrate is that the order of the Aleph Bet is significant. To do that, and the placement of letters in the Aleph Bet is also important. To do that, I want to pick two words. I want to pick the word for truth. What's the word for truth? Anyone know? Emet. And what's the word for falsehood? Sheker. Emet and sheker. And I want to talk a little about what emet means. What happens? I'll tell you a story. A lawyer story, since I went to law school. Lawyer story. Any lawyers in the room?
Aspiring. Where'd you go?
NYU. So the story goes as follows. There's a terrible train accident. A train careens into a truck that's stalled on the tracks. And the watchman, did you tell him this story? Dave loves this story. The kind of story you would love. Early Markowitz. So the watchman is there at the time of the accident. There's loss of life, loss of property. It's devastating. There's a court trial. And at the trial, the lawyers are cross-examining the watchman. And they say as follows, one of the attorneys. Mr. Jones, is it true that at 9:30 p.m. you were at the crossing at the time of the accident? And Mr. Jones says, yes, it is. And the attorney says, Mr. Jones, is it true that you saw the oncoming Amtrak train? Mr. Jones answers, yes, I did. And what did you do, Mr. Jones? And he answers, I raised my lantern at the oncoming train. Frustrated that he couldn't trip the witness up, the attorney sits down and says, Your Honor, I have no further questions. And Mr. Jones sits down next to his attorney and breathes a sigh of relief and says, I was so afraid they were going to ask me whether or not the lantern was lit. You got to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. What happens if I have part of the truth in Hebrew? I've got the word for truth in Hebrew is emet. If I have part of the truth, it's aleph and mem, right? Aleph and mem means if. What? What happens if I have the last part of truth? Mem and taf. Met. What's that? Dead. The truth, the whole truth, so help you God. From beginning, the middle, to the end. Would you believe that if you look at the Hebrew alphabet, and you look where emet is situated, you will notice that the first letter of emet is an aleph. Even if you don't read Hebrew, you can see this. An aleph is the first letter of the word emet. The next letter is a mem. And the final letter is a taf. Do you see how well founded they are at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the alphabet? Contrast that with the word for something false, which is sheker. Sheker is end-loaded to the back of the alphabet. You see that? The letters that comprise sheker, in yellow here, are at the end of the alphabet. Not only that, do you know anything different about the way the letters look that comprise emet versus sheker? Look at the bottoms. Huh?
Backwards.
It's also backwards. The sheker letters have one leg each. The shin in the Torah comes to a point. The resh comes to a point here. This letter is a kuf. It comes to a point. Whereas in emet, aleph has 2 feet. Mem has a base. The taf, the last letter in emet, has 2 feet. This is not me, by the way. The Talmud says this. Emet has feet. Sheker has no feet. So the idea in Hebrew is that even letters and their placement in the alphabet has unbelievable significance.